final ride in France. I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks lying in bed at night, listening in the distance to the roar of airplane engines at Charles de Gaulle airport as they take off and land when the wind is in the right direction. So I've decided to take a little trip up near the airport to have a look at a couple of things associated with it. Once again in France, you can see I'm on a fairly busy stretch, and there's a very well segregated cycle path to keep cyclists safe and to keep motorists focusing on what they need to focus on rather than getting angry because somebody's wearing lycra. And here we have a very good cycleway right alongside the airport. And that's hardcore plane spotting. One of the reasons why the in memoriam plaque has German on it, when Concorde was notoriously British and French, is that when that fatal crash on the 25th of July 2000 happened, it's just about everybody on the flight was from Germany. They were flying across to America, I believe, to join a cruise. So Concorde is closely associated with Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. There is what I believe is the last remaining Concorde on display by the side of the road, but you're going to have to make do with a picture off Google Maps because when you see what kind of road it is, I'm not even sure if I would have been allowed to cycle down there, and if I had been, I really didn't fancy it. That's what's helping keep me awake at night, even though we are 5 miles away. Yep, this plane spotting is a serious business. On the 25th of July 2000, Air France flight 4590 crashed shortly after takeoff. It was the only fatal Concorde accident during its 27-year service. While taking off from Charles de Gaulle Airport, the aircraft ran over debris on the runway, causing a tyre to blow up and disintegrate. Tyre fragments, flung by the rapidly spinning wheel, damaged the landing gear, keeping the wheels down, and ruptured a fuel tank. Fire from the engine was actually spotted by air traffic control, but by then Concorde was travelling at a speed where it would have been impossible to abort takeoff without a huge disaster anyway. The aircraft lifted off, but the loss of thrust, high drag from the extended landing gear, and fire damage to the flight controls made it impossible to maintain control. The jet crashed into a hotel in nearby Gonesse 2 minutes after takeoff. All 9 crew and 100 passengers on board were killed, alongside 4 in the hotel. In the wake of the disaster, the entire Concorde fleet was grounded. It returned to service in November 2001, but to limited commercial success, due possibly to diminished confidence in the aircraft. It was finally retired in 2003. And just behind the hotel, we have this memorial to commemorate the unfortunate incident and the all souls that died. I've said a few times on these rides about how it looks like the villages are like a ghost town. You hardly see anybody in them. Well, nowhere is it more appropriate than this place, Goussainville, as you'll see in a moment. The reason why this place is so unusual is that back in the early 70s, when Charles de Gaulle Airport was developed, the airport authorities were required by law to offer to purchase houses that were within a certain range due to noise pollution. This part of the village of Goussainville came into that grouping. 1,000 inhabitants at the time, 300 decided to stay and stick it out. The others had their houses purchased, and the method was that the authorities would then have to demolish them. However, it was found out afterwards that the church was classified as a historic monument, which meant that any buildings within 500 meters of the historic building couldn't be demolished. So for decades, loads and loads of these buildings have just lain empty and decaying. Sometimes they've had squatters and stuff, but it's a strange mixture of a ghost town, but still with some life in it. So at the end of the road over there, and just a few hundred yards up, you're then in the newer part of Goussainville. So because this is kind of just part of a larger town, you just have this unusual scenario with old crumbling buildings that nobody's lived in for decades. Besides, for example, here, the local school, open and thriving. The reason why this village still has life in it, apart from the few remaining residents and lots of cars dotted around, is because it's become an accidental tourist attraction, with lots of people coming like me just to have a look around, because it is such a strange story. I hope you've enjoyed that little tribute to Concorde and a visit to a real ghost town. If you have, then please like the video, by clicking the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you can. It all helps push my content in front of other cyclists who might also enjoy what I'm putting out. Fingers crossed. All that remains for me for the last time in France is to say to you all, au revoir, happy cycling, and I'll see you soon.